What's up, Battle Cattle? All right, this is gameplay from Stampede Airsoft at the Holy Cowz Airsoft Field in Newport Richey, Florida. This is part 2 of the Greb Wars. Greb is actually a good guy. Plays with us a lot. I think he gets a lot of ribbing at times, so this video is no different. This is part 2 from when Greb shot out my scope. So you'll see Greb come in here in a second. He's the one that shot out my scope from 39 feet away. Also hit me in the face with an LMG, which has a 50-foot engagement rule. My rifle has a 100-foot engagement rule. He assumed this was less than 50 feet. It is zoomed in, obviously, but he did have some concerns, and he vocalized those on the field. We talked about it later. He thought it was probably more like 80 feet. But I did I walked it later with a string.
Stop talking!
I walked it later with a string, and it was actually 102 feet. But in the heat of it, it might seem shorter, especially when it stings. It's a 4.9 gram BB, and I'm sure they don't feel good. Not sure how I missed this kid poking his head out. I got him eventually. You'll see that later on. I think I was hitting the tree in front of me, and I think you'll see a BB implant right there in the Y of the tree here in a second. There it is. So obviously my camera is a little bit higher than the scope. So now you're going to see the guy in black that I hit twice in the head earlier. They didn't call it, running through the woods right there. So I shot him in the hip, and he did whoop whoop, as you heard, and then I shot him again in the ass just there. So this black armor, whatever he's wearing, is obviously impenetrable. I've got to get some of that stuff. I do want to point out also that my SSG is right at the 550 limit for this field. I do not condone shooting people that close. They have a 100-foot engagement rule. Only people who don't feel the hits or don't call the hits generally will get shot, at closer range, like you saw the guy in black. He's got some pretty heavy armor on, and I never shoot kids, only in the lower body. Try to get them if they don't have a plate carry, I'll hit them in the hips, or the butt or the legs. But you got to be very careful. You don't want to hurt the young guys. That kills the sport. Now you'll notice Greb is coming back now, walking at a brisk pace. I think he wants to do give me some payback here, but I think he slightly underestimated the range of the SSG. Here's what happens. I also want to point out that even after what in part 1 you saw he shot me in the face, my body's pretty big. I'm a fat guy, and I was behind a skinny tree, so he had other options, and he claimed that he only shot what he could see. But some of these guys do go for the face. He was laying 39 feet in front of me. He could have hit me anywhere else. But because I enjoy the sport, I want it to thrive, I always try to hit center mass if I can see it, as evidenced by the 2 shots I put on Greb in this video. Now this kid, I thought was a full-grown adult, possibly a female, no offense. I thought that was a girl that we call Rose. She has a similar, setup, for her head. And it turns out it was a young kid, probably 12 to 14 years old. And so he found me later and asked me if that was a Novrich that I shot him with. And I said, no, I don't think I shot you. And then he showed me his hat, and I said, oh boy. So I apologized to him, but it did leave a nice bruise even through the hat, because they were right at that 100-foot mark. But it was nonetheless, he was a good sport about it, and he was inquisitive about the rifle, so I showed it to him. Now this whole time, the other team's been trying to find me. I'm really not hidden that well. I just think there's so many branches in the way, they just can't see me clearly. So you'll see that one guy that's really close to me runs up on my left, and you'll see him in the scope, but I choose not to shoot him because he's very, very close, probably about 20 feet, 25 feet away, and I just can't do that. My sidearm wasn't working, so I just decided to kind of hang back and hope that he didn't really know where I was, and here he is. Now you'll see when the guy in black, in just a moment, when he comes up and he's behind the board there, I'm trying to hit him in the back of his plate carrier in the back. But as I start aiming for the back and I go to fire, he kind of moves back right here and then boom, hits him right in the head. But that's it for this game. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much, and see you next weekend.